Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 5 Jan here in 2026. This is Spencer Keck coming at you live with my hillbilly think tank here in Hardin County, Kentucky, where I'm running for magistrate in 3rd District of Hardin County. It's been just an amazing, what? Are we 11 months in now? 12 months in? Seems like 12 years. But today, I just can't help but make comments on what Whiskey Pete Kegsbreath, the SecDef, also known as Whiskey Leaks, is doing. Just downright unpatriotic. And I would like to see your comments if there's anybody out there tonight to see this. So, today, Kegsbreath started proceedings to censure Senator Mark Kelly, who is a retired Navy captain. Kegsbreath aims to reduce Senator Kelly in retirement rank and put a permanent deleterious remark in the senator's permanent military record. Now, this is beyond hypocritical and ironic of Kegsbreath because Whiskey Pete said the exact same thing about troops having a duty not to follow unlawful orders when President Obama was in office. He never attended Ranger School, Airborne School, or Air Assault School, Mr. Kegsbreath, but he also never led anything more meaningful than infantry platoon in the National Guard. He barely made major in the National Guard in over 10 years he was in it. And in the National Guard, in the Army, and 04, which is the rank he made, major, is only, that's ranks lower than the rank that Navy Captain Mark Kelly retired as before he ran for office and became a congressman, became senator. All right. So, just in case you don't know the Navy rank structures, in the Army, when you talk about someone being a captain, that's an 03. He barely made major. Don't even know how he did that, since he didn't do any of the things that an Army officer has to do to be able to make rank and actually call himself something in the military. You got to go to Ranger School. You got to go to Airborne, Air Assault. At least one of those schools, but really every Army officer in the infantry has got to be airborne. And he wasn't. And if you really want to keep on going, you got to get that Ranger tab. He never did. And yet, he wants to act like he is the most experienced infantryman in the Army. Man. And at the same time, he's acting this way. He is disparaging one of the most amazing Navy careermen that I've seen and that I ever aspired even to want to be when I was in the Navy. Senator Kelly retired as a Navy captain. A Navy captain is far different than an Army captain. A Navy captain is one rank below admiral, which, if I was in the Army, would be one rank below general. A Navy captain is what we call a full bird. In the Army, that would be a colonel, a full bird colonel. Senator Kelly flew 39 combat missions in his career in the Navy, did that in the first Gulf War, and then he went and became an astronaut. Folks, we've talked about it before. There's an astronomically large group of folks that apply to be astronauts, and only a tiny, less than a handful get chosen. And yet, Senator Kelly was, and he flew 4 missions as an astronaut. That's a big deal. But Whiskey Pete, he's just mediocrity at its best, grandiosely masquerading as being something bigger than he really is. Oh, welcome. I see I got one person on here. Goddess Nix. What are you saying tonight? Considering the action, Congress, if nothing else, arms and intel committees should have been informed and have input. Yeah, I have to agree. So today, again, Whiskey Leaks Pete Kegsbreath says he is going to censure and started censuring Senator Mark Kelly. Now, guys, this is a bridge that we've never crossed in our democracy. Yeah, we've seen mudslinging. We've seen people do all kinds of stuff to tear down the other side. But this is going beyond the pale. This is crossing the Rubicon, right? Because again, Kegsbreath is just that epitome of mediocrity acting with illusions of grandiosity. He wishes he could have been the type of military man that Senator Kelly was, Captain Kelly was. But speaking of the censure of Senator Kelly being inappropriate, I don't think that's appropriate. Senator Collins of Maine said Monday of the proceedings. Kegsbreath announced earlier in the day against Senator Kelly, who, as I said, flew 39 combat missions as a naval aviator and 4 space missions as an astronaut. Again, you just can't say that enough, right? This is absolutely mediocrity pretending to be far more than it ever was in its playtime career as Kegsbreath played military. He did a little time with the National Guard down in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. He did a little time over in Afghanistan, called it coin training, when he just taught one class to folks over there. And yet that was enough for his fitness report to make him look like he was good enough to claim himself as a real leader in the war against terror. He was never in special forces, never in special operations. He is just mediocrity masquerading as being amazing when he absolutely is not. So, what on earth are we going to do? Are we going to really allow a sitting U.S. senator with a flawless military and astronaut record to go down under this type of scrutiny for saying something that is protected by the First Amendment? And the only reason that I wore the uniform, as I said before, was number one, I believe in this country. I believe in our Constitution, which is what I swore an allegiance to. And that First Amendment is one of my dearest parts of the Constitution. Yeah, I love the Second Amendment too, but that First Amendment and the Bill of Rights is something I hold near and dear. And that freedom of speech is what Senator Kelly and the other folks who stood up and said, military folks, remember, you swore an allegiance to a constitution, not to a king, not to a dictator. You have a duty to not follow unlawful orders. This is the same fucking thing that Kegsbreath, you can go watch the recording where he said this exact same thing, even longer and stronger than Senator Kelly and the others did recently. It's recorded when he did that back during the Obama administration on live recording. Go watch it. Tell me if it is not the epitome of hypocrisy and irony, or worse, that this man is going to go try and tell this Gosh, absolute amazing sailor, Navy captain, retired, now senator. They're going to try to reduce him in rank, Kegsbreath is, and put this crap in his record, labeling what the brave senator did as being traitorous. We already know that Sleepy Don, Dementia Donnie, called for Senator Kelly and others to be executed. When is enough enough, Congress, military leaders? Where are the real active duty military leaders that have intestinal fortitude, which is something I heard all the time in the Marine Corps infantry? All right, we've got Julia Sharp on here tonight saying it's really disgusting and shameful. I've been on a slow burn ever since we heard about it. So have I. I cannot believe it. All right, we got the ghost of John Brown here. That is the question. Very, very true. So, please, we cannot allow our representative democracy to go down like this. This is the beginning of a one-party nation. And when that happens, representative democracy is gone. Absolutely snuffed out. Are we going to allow it? That's my question. So, tell me what you think here in the comments. Get a few more here. I'll put you up on stage. We got Ray Wren Hack. Kelly shouldn't have said anything. He could have kept his pride. Pride? We're talking about our democracy. We are talking about what on earth is worth more than pride. What's worth more than pride is our democracy. That's what's worth more than pride. So I cannot stand to see someone say, oh, Senator Kelly should have kept his mouth shut. No. We have been calling the king that's dancing around naked. We've been saying, oh, yeah, he's got beautiful clothes on. No one is speaking up, saying, no, king's naked and fucking crazy. Screw pride. That's military Jack. Nobody's fault but his own. No, it's not military. He is not in the military anymore. He was speaking as an elected member of our representative government. It's not military, and you cannot treat our elected democracy as if, oh, a military tribunal can take it out. Nope. Can't do it. Tom Armstrong, late to the party. Let's see what you're saying tonight, Tom. So Tom says, Kegsbreath was voted in by the entire Senate, including the Democrats. The Democrats in the Senate are complicit in his stupidity. Well, yeah. Some of the Democrats absolutely are. We got to get rid of corporate Democrats. All right, we got Jonathan on here. Did you see what happened in Memphis? So, in Memphis, Tennessee, we had 10 or 20 National Guard members went to a private place of business and tried to surround it and shut it down because it had a sign on its door that said it wasn't going to serve ice. Hey, if a restaurant doesn't want to serve ice or other members of what this guy in the restaurant called the Gestapo, I don't know if we believe in private enterprise anymore and private sovereignty. I know that I hear the right wing talk about that all the time, but I guess it only applies to them, right? Terry Cook, what are you saying? Let's see here if I can bring you up on stage. We need to take this so seriously. Have to have face-to-face meetings, plan designated meetings, places, and short notifications. All right, so I'm not sure if we're talking now about Memphis or still talking about Kegsbreath, but let's go over Memphis. So folks showed up quickly in Memphis because not only the National Guard showed up, surrounded this restaurant, trying to cut off its business because it had that sign about ice. ICE came out, other feds came out, Memphis PD came out. But they were surprised to find that soon an enormous group of concerned citizens came out and supported this man, this businessman. And they were actually able to hold a protest so strong that it drove away the feds. So there we go. Democracy in action. All right. Tom says when he was in Army ROTC, I assume that means in high school. Let's see, what did they teach you? I had some lessons in the officer ranks. Kegsbreath has more teeth in his head than brain cells. Yeah. Kegsbreath graduated from Princeton. He got an ROTC commission. So he used ROTC to get a commission in the National Guard, never did any time in the regular Army. And again, his career was absolute just mediocrity. Never went to airborne school, which is jump school, never got jump qualified, never got that pin, never got a Ranger tab, never went to air assault school. Those are all schools that if you're going to be a leader in the infantry, you go to if you want to be a real leader. And if you want to really rise in the ranks and show that you know what you're doing, that's where you develop your knowledge and your skills. And then you go put into action in the field with your men. He never did that. All right, it goes to John Brown. Let's see what you're saying. What happened in Memphis is just the beginning, turned up in the boiling pot of the unknowing frogs. Yeah. Yep. Yep. All right. Anybody else agree? Disagree? So far, it seems like. All right, so we got Goddess Nick saying something else too. Goddess Nix, you and all officers should say that, not to follow the illegal orders and to buck illegal orders by any way those can be. Just because military follows orders doesn't mean mindlessly. And that's what I was taught the whole time I was in the military when I got into higher ranks. You can't be mindless robots. We are not like our foes of old, the USSR and Soviet, Russia. We're not like communist China, just robots trained to follow orders without looking at their legality. And, but here we are. All right, Julia Sharp saying our democracy is everything, and it pisses me off that I got old and sick. Senator Kelly had the courage to speak. I wish others would be more like him. And again, Captain Kelly had an amazing career. I bet you he would have gone on to be more than a Navy captain, which was a very, very high rank that, man, folks in the Navy are very happy if they just make it to that. But I'm pretty sure he would have made it up to admiral. If it wasn't for another tragedy that befell him, and that was his wife being shot multiple times, some of those bullets going into her head, if you remember, when she was a congressman from Arizona. So he retired to take care of her, and then he felt so compelled to carry on her legacy that he ran for office, and she couldn't fulfill that legacy anymore that she was doing so good at there in Arizona. That's his legacy. That's absolute to me. That is true love, true honor for one's true loved one, for one's spouse. I can't think of something more courageous to do, you know, and more self-sacrificing, because he was so famous as a naval aviator, as an astronaut. He surely would have gone up to be an admiral. But nope, he went and did a less glamorous job, became a senator. All right, see if I've missed any other comments here. Let's see. All right, so we got Jalika Sharp. I think we went over yours. Yeah. So, you guys don't know, what much more we can say. Get on the hotline, call your senators, call your congressmen, do everything we can, because this is absolutely the signs of a democracy that is on a downward spiral. If we don't pull this out of the tailspin now, that's where we're headed. And we can't let this be. Too many of my family members sacrificed. Here's what was Senator Kelly said. He went on and made a video and said he would like to know how many of Trump's family members across the generations have served in the U.S. military, as his family members have for many generations. And he said, oh, the answer is 0. I know exactly what he's saying. I served in combat 2 wars. My dad served in combat, did 18 months in Vietnam when you were only required to do 12. He volunteered to extend for an extra 6. Now, he was in the Ia Drang. If you've ever seen We Were Soldiers Once and Young, he was there. He got his death from Agent Orange that he was exposed to while he was over in Vietnam. Gave him cancer twice. He died in the VA in Lexington, Kentucky because of that. I had to go with my wife and son crying by my side to make the decision of whether or not he should be taken off of life support when he was in stage 4 cancer. The time I was living in Montana, I had to fly back here to Kentucky just to make that decision. Toughest thing I've ever done. Trump's family has never done that, and they never will. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if one of them decides to join the space farce branch of the so-called military, space farce, just to look like they were in the military, but they won't be in the infantry. I guarantee it. They'll not be in the front lines ever. They don't have the intestinal fortitude. They don't have the fortitude of honor, courage, and commitment. No, not at all. Tom Armstrong said, let's see what you saying, Tom. Tom says, I fully admit to expecting the alleged representatives and senators who mispresent me in Washington District of Columbia concubines to ignore my calls, but I have to call them anyway. Yeah. And if you haven't got that 5 calls app, get it. Start making 5 calls a day. We got to flood their boards, fill up their inbox. of voicemails, emails, whatever you can do. Julia Sharp says, I am so sorry you had to see the results of Agent Orange. I lost one of my dear friends, Harold Tedder, to Agent Orange. Yes. So it was my dad who found my brother, Kelly, hanging in the closet. After my brother lost his leg and hand in Afghanistan. 4.5 years later, my dad found my brother Kelly, who was a combat medic, lost his leg and hand in Afghanistan. Dad found him hanging in his closet. Dad had to go through that travesty, not only of seeing the effects of combat in action while he was in Vietnam, to seeing how it tore his middle son to pieces. Had to watch that. I, as the older brother, can't sleep at nights because I know I'm the one who took him to recruiter twice. First, I took him hoping he would join the Marine Reserves while he was in college, get some money. I go back to my active duty station and get a call from him. Hey, I'm going to Marine Corps boot camp. Turned out he didn't go reserves. He went active duty. Did that for 4 years. Went to Morehead State University. Then later, long story short, went back in the Army, became a combat medic. And that's where he was blown up in Afghanistan, survived it, but couldn't survive for the long run. Youngest brother was with him in the same unit. We got grandfathers, great grandfathers. You go on back to the beginning of this nation, every generation in my family has fought and bled for this country to be truly great. Have we always been the best? We are a human machine. We are a human endeavor. This country is. So yes, we've always had something we could fix, but we, in my family, always fought for the ideals that we held high and knew that we could aspire to. So let's see what else comments we got here. Sounds like my wife might be back from work. I'm going to go up there and say hello if she is. So, all right. Vendetta killed in action, KIA says, more psychological help for combat and first responders. Yes, that is what we need. That is for sure. And we know this Congress, in its big, ugly bill, it didn't have any more money for psychological help for combat and first responders, but have plenty of money to send down to Argentina, $40 billion during the shutdown. Had plenty of, apparently there's still billions of dollars we're going to spend in Venezuela for the next 10, 20, what is this one going to take 30 years? The last regime change took 20, and we lost it in Afghanistan. Iraq, we're still over there. And for what? So, yeah. But they'll have plenty of money for that, but they won't have any money for those of us who will bear that burden. You're right. All right, y'all. Really appreciate you getting on here and being a part of this tonight. And let's all do our best to turn this around, because we cannot allow a true patriot like Senator Kelly to go down for this kind of shenanigans and to go down with the ship while our ship of democracy sinks. All right, last couple comments here. Vendetta. I know a train driver who had a suicide victim and he couldn't get any help. Yeah, absolutely. Right there with you. I fought against suicide in the military for the whole last 15 years of my career once I became an independent duty corpsman. There's one Marine that I wasn't able to help, and it'll haunt me to my grave. Still keep me up late at night too, for him killing himself. But I did everything I could for any other service member that even hinted at suicide while I was on active duty in the medical field. And I'm very proud of that. It's one of the very few things that, yeah, I sleep well knowing I did my best. Thank you, Julia. You said amen. Terry Cook. Yes, great point here. This is a great one to go end on. I'm ashamed of all the vets that have thrown their oath away to support the Orange Draft Dodger, right? To support Captain Bone Spurs. That hurts me to the core. I threw in the Captain Bone Spurs part, but Orange Draft Dodger is what Terry Cook said. That hurts me to the core, Terry says. God, deep to this core. All right. What else we got here? All right, y'all. So remember, like I said, I'm running for Magistrate District 3. I am running for the honor and memory and the legacy of my dad, who died only a few weeks after turning 69 because of Agent Orange that he received while serving our great nation. I am fighting to get elected so that I can help make just my part of Kentucky, Hardin County, that much better in honor of their legacy, in honor of the legacy of my brother, Staff Sergeant Kelly Freeman Keck, who gave more than anyone should ever have to for this country that he loved and that I love, and we're both very proud to serve. I do it in honor of so many of the folks that I serve with that aren't alive today, and those that are still alive, but they are bearing the burden, the wounds that you can't see when you see them on the street. You don't know the wounds that we carry, the things we carry. All right, y'all. God bless us, everyone. As Tiny Tim said, this is the 11th day of Christmas. Tomorrow is Epiphany, 12th day of Christmas, the day the wise men came and gave gifts to everyone. Let's give us all a gift tomorrow of raising up our voices as one, as wise men and women on that day of the wise men, the 12th day of Christmas, and shout from the rooftops that this nonsense must stop. We must have our democracy back. Remember, in Kentucky, united we stand, divided we fall. And so that we can not be divided, we must love our neighbor as ourselves. We must be our brother's keeper and our sister's keeper. Now, someone asked me the last part of what I say every night, so I guess I'll translate it. Corazón in Spanish means heart. And there's a cool restaurant in Louisville that has this written on the side of it. God bless you, corazón. Have a great night.